Matthew, there has been a flooding situation in the Dubbo area over the past few days. How have things been looking?
It certainly has been a bit of a situation. One of the problems, of course, is that we've got a dam which is fantastic in that it holds back water, but unfortunately, there needs to be a bit of headroom kept in the dam. And one of the issues that we see is that even when we've got no rain, sometimes the government lets out a bit more water along the river just to make sure there is enough headroom in the dam. So sometimes we get a continued flow down the river. And then in this particular situation we've had over the last week, we've had that flow coming down. But then the Bell River, which feeds through Wellington and joins the Macquarie, the Bell River's had some large rainfall above that area there, and that's flowed down. So in the end of all that, we actually had an almost flood in Dubbo, some moderate floods I'd probably call it. We really know it's flooded when we get bridge that goes across the Newell Highway or along the Newell Highway. When that particular bridge floods, we know we've got a flood. It got to the point where 2 lanes of that were closed down. The other 2 lanes were kept open. So we were on the verge of shutting that down. And if that shuts down, we get probably 1 hour, maybe longer traffic delays through Dubbo.
What have we seen around the region? Any sort of smaller roads closed or farmland flooded at all?
Probably more in a direction towards Sydney. You've certainly had some road closures there. The Mitchell Highway was closed down between Molong and Wellington. You see some bridges, some of the local bridges that have been closed down around the area. Out in farming areas, certainly farmers have got water that's just flowing across the top because the actual land itself has got so much water in the ground already. So any rain that falls doesn't seem to be absorbed by the ground at the moment because it's already fully saturated. So any rain that falls seems to turn straight into runoff. When you fly into Dubbo at the moment, I've never seen so many dams that have got water in them, never seen so much water just lying around on the roads in areas where it's just quite incredible just to see so much water around, and you're just not seeing that water go. It's not getting away. It can't get away anywhere. It's obviously not the middle of summer, so we're not seeing much evaporation of that water. So it just seems like there's so much water sitting around, and then extra rain that comes obviously results in additional flows.
Is that a concern? We've got more rain forecast just later this week that we could, if it turns into something quite significant, we could see, perhaps quite serious flooding.
You potentially will see that. Again, what we see here in Dubbo is that we haven't had a serious flood since 2010, and that's fantastic. There's certainly a lot that's been learned by state government authorities in terms of the dam and the flow of the river, but you can't always beat nature. So although we've done quite well over the last 12 years, that rain that's predicted for the middle of this week could certainly have an impact there. And again, some people say to me, what's it like with the rain in Dubbo? And sometimes it's not rain in Dubbo that causes our problems. It's obviously rain upstream of Dubbo. We've got the Talbragar, we've got the Bell that I mentioned before that feeds into the Macquarie, and of course we've got the Macquarie, and that can sometimes result in extended waters coming through Dubbo, extended flood waters coming through Dubbo.
We are looking at a wet summer ahead, another La Nina summer. You mentioned before the catchment's basically soaked. So the ground's already, just filled with water. You're looking at perhaps, are you preparing for at least the potential of a pretty difficult summer ahead?
We certainly know that there will be more water coming, and the preparation is difficult. There are certain things you can do and other things you really just have to wait for the water to start coming down. One of the issues that seems to be impacting everyone, and not just in our local government area, across large parts of the state, is the condition of the roads. Every road that you drive on at the moment seems to be severely impacted. It might be potholes, it might be sheets of bitumen that have washed away. I was on a road the other day and there was about a 5 metre length of road that was no longer there. There was dirt there instead of where the bitumen was because that had just been washed away. So the road underneath the road is so wet at the moment that again you get that water flow, and it just takes away pieces of bitumen, it takes away pieces of road. And then those small potholes, it's incredible how quickly they grow because you get some water that's underneath the bitumen, and those small potholes, a bit of traffic goes across the top and suddenly they can turn into very large potholes very quickly. So we are seeing the condition of the roads deteriorate, and that's happening again in large areas. And we are asking drivers just to drive to those conditions because there is just no way that we would either have the money or the resources or even the manpower to do the repairs on all the roads in our local government area, and that's being replicated across many local government areas.
Just lastly, and stepping right back, Dubbo is a town, a city that's used to drought and used to floods as well. But does it feel like you're just kind of swinging between the two these days?
Absolutely. 2019, obviously, a terrible drought. And when you'd look around, either you'd fly in or you'd drive out around the area, there are some areas that looked like a moonscape. And obviously, people were hoping, and it would eventually come, but hoping for that drought to end as soon as possible and to get some water. I think people wished too hard for that water, because when the water came, the water came, and the water came, and the water came. And now we're seeing that. Throw in amongst all of that, we've had some other issues with mice. We've had some issues with bushfires around certain areas there. And these haven't all necessarily impacted people in Dubbo, but across the region, in very quick succession, drought, bushfires, mice, flooding, it makes it pretty tough for people living in regional areas.
Alrighty, that's great.
Thank you.